Hi. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I really appreciate you. And I really appreciate you being so supportive of the channel and being so, I don't know, the fact that you're here, knowing that this is a live training, right? It's a live manga training. Knowing that you're here for this training tells me that, okay, you need help. Or maybe if you don't need help, perhaps you don't know what sort of help you need, or you want to make manga, that's for sure, right? So I'm glad to see that you're all taking that step with us. And perhaps you guys have watched a video or two of ours, right? And maybe you want to learn more about the entire process and learn more from our mentors, because this whole training is actually like a, how do you say it? Like a really short 7-step version of what we teach in our program. The program is a bit more extensive than the curriculum that I'm going to be teaching today. But this whole curriculum comes from our pro mangaka mentors, right? We have 2 pro mangaka mentors on staff. We also have a pro manga editor with decades of experience on staff as well. And this whole process that I'm going to be teaching you today comes directly from them, right? So if you spent years struggling to create your own manga, then you're in the right place, right? Because today we're gonna learn this exact 7-step creation process, right? But before that, I do have a couple of questions for you guys. So if you can relate to this, just please type "I'm struggling" in the chat, right? So I've always wanted to create manga, but my art isn't good enough. My story isn't ready. I don't know how to properly put my ideas on paper. I feel alone and scared that I can't make it. If this is you, just type "I'm struggling" in chat. Can anyone relate? I already see a couple of people who say they're struggling. I mean, I feel you. I mean, it's a safe space, you guys. You don't have to be shy. We're all sharing over here. There's no shame in saying that you're struggling, right? We're all struggling in whatever, not just in making manga, but in whatever aspect in life you're struggling with, particularly. Like for me, I'm struggling with my lack of sleep these past couple of days, but I'm not afraid to share that. And also, I've also been struggling with not knowing how to like seriously pursue my passion for art as well, because I'm not like a manga artist like most of you guys. Perhaps most of you guys have already tried making manga, or if you've drawn manga at least, but for me, I'm more of like a traditional artist in that sense. And I've been struggling to pick up my hobby again. For me, it's been a hobby. I've been struggling to pick it up again because I've been so busy with life and with work. So perhaps that may be you as well. Maybe you're struggling with that sort of thing where you're struggling to pursue manga seriously because life is just getting in the way, right? Or maybe something else is getting in the way. Maybe it's work, maybe it's school, right? If that's you, I totally get it. And it seems like, okay, there are a lot of people who feel the same way, right? You're all struggling. And I see you guys, I see you. I really get it. So, as you can see in chat, like, you're not the only one, right? There are so many fellow aspiring artists like you who are going through the same thing, or maybe the similar thing, right? Maybe not the exact same thing, but a similar situation where they're stuck and they don't know how to pursue making manga, right? So by the end of this free training, right, you're gonna have an exact roadmap on how to create your first manga. And if you're a beginner serious about creating your own original manga to self-publish, join manga contests and pitch to publishers, stick around to learn how. All right, so if you're struggling, or if you feel stuck and you don't know what to do, oh, I want to make manga so bad, but I just don't know how, and I don't know what I need to do to be able to get there and be able to like actually finish my very first manga. If you're the type of person who hasn't finished their first manga yet, right? So we're here to break down that entire step-by-step process on what you need to do, and perhaps tips that I could give you if you have any questions about any particular step in the process. I'm free. I'll try to help you as best as I can if I know. And yeah, for this training, you don't have to feel so stuck. You don't have to feel so lost, because I am gonna try and help you the best I can. Like, we at Learn to Draw Manga are gonna try to help you the best we can, right? So we've broken down this process with the help of some amazing professionals, right? And here's what we're gonna learn, right? So this is the 7-step to create your first manga. First is ideation and planning, second is writing, third is visual design, fourth is storyboarding, fifth is pencil sketches, sixth is inking, and seventh is finishing slash shading. And yes, you guys, I do read chat, but I feel like in order for us to get this training moving along, right, I can only address chat every so often, right? So for most of this live, I am going to be focusing on the discussion itself, and then I will entertain questions once it's appropriate, right? Once the discussion allows it, right? Once the time allows it, right? So just to keep things organized and make sure we're all on the same track, right? I'm only going to entertain questions at specific points of the live, and I'll let you guys know if I am entertaining questions, right? So make sure to save those questions for when I ask for them. Right? Okay, so we've broken down all these 7 steps with the process of the process with the help of mangaka professionals, right? We've worked with pro Japanese mangakas in our program, like Nao Yazawa sensei and Rena Saya sensei. They both have over 50 years of combined experience in the Japanese manga industry. They've gotten published, they've won contests, and they've self-published their own works, and they've worked with big publishers. I mean, Yazawa Sensei actually is the creator behind Wedding Peach. So Wedding Peach was a manga, a magical girl manga that got published in the 90s, and it was actually turned into an anime as well. So Yazawa Sensei's got her manga turned into an anime, you guys. And since then she's released her own how to draw manga books and is still publishing her own mangas as well. And also we have Rena Saya Sensei, who is similar to Yazawa Sensei in that she also has worked on multiple how to draw manga books with Japanese publishers, and she's also self-published her own stuff and is currently like teaching at a manga school in Tokyo as well, on top of teaching students in our program, right? And we also have pro webtoon artist Steph Pastrano. Steph Pastrano is pretty much known for his really amazing like illustrations, as you can see on screen. These are just a couple samples of his illustration work, and since then he's moved on from illustrations and he's already making his own webtoon and professionally like focusing on making his own webtoon specifically. And we also have Pro Manga Editor, the newest addition to our mentor staff, Pro Manga Editor Vivi. Now, Vivi is an editor who's worked with Japanese publishers for over 10 years, and she's worked on editorial teams for titles like Record of Ragnarok and Unsung Cinderella, if you guys are familiar. And she's also worked with Kadokawa and Koamix, two pretty familiar Japanese publisher names, if you guys are familiar. Like Koamix is actually the publisher behind Fist of the North Star, and also they're the organizer behind the Silent Manga Edition, which is one of the biggest like manga contests online right now, right? So Vivi's worked with them. And yeah, with the guidance of these pros, we've helped over 400 beginner mangakas in the last 3 years, and we've seen them transform their manga journeys, right? So this is just one of our students, Raven, who actually struggled with her art when she first came to us, and now she's finished her first one shot and manga, and you know what? It only took her 4 months to produce her very first manga. Oh, sorry, I just noticed somewhat is the background music annoying? Sorry about that. Should I just change it entirely, or should I just lower the volume? Sorry about that, you guys. I'll take a minute to get your thoughts. Should I stop the background music or nah? Are you guys okay? Is it really that annoying? Is it that distracting? Let me know before I proceed. Music is fine. It doesn't bother. I didn't even hear any music. Oh, okay. Okay, so some of you don't hear music, really? Okay. Lower it. Ah. Okay, lower it? Alright, let me just lower it then. Okay. Lowering it. Okay, I've lowered it. So if everyone's good, I'll proceed. All right, I want to make sure everyone's comfortable and not distracted by music. Okay? So, are we good? Are we all good? Just maybe just send a thumbs up emoji for all good. All right. We good. To be fair, it's jazz, all right? So maybe you guys, maybe that one person who said it was annoying just doesn't like jazz. I personally love jazz, so sorry. This is just the type of music that I enjoy listening to. So my apologies. All right. Yeah. Okay. Okay. We're all good. It seems like most of everyone is good. All right. So yeah, this is our student Raven. I think I've pretty much gone over Raven's whole journey, right? It took her 4 months to produce her first manga. And this is considering the fact that she'd never made manga before and she'd only ever like drawn illustrations and like not just like full illustrations, but just character illustrations, as you can see here on in like her earlier work back in January of like 2023. Yeah, so she'd only ever drawn characters, and just 4 months later, she already finished like her first manga. And like her first manga might look rough, but it's the very first time that she's ever finished something, and she felt so accomplished by the end of it, and she's already making her next manga, right? So in the program, you don't just get to finish your first manga if because like we do have some students like once they finish that first manga they just move on to the next one because they're so motivated to improve their next project, right? So like Raven, after her first manga she's already on to her next one. And we also have our student Eduardo, who published his latest shonen battle manga, Cobra the Kid, on Manga Plus Creators, and recently joined the Silent Manga edition back in February. Right, I say recently, but that was back in February. But February of this year, I mean. So Eduardo has a bit of a different background than Raven because Eduardo actually had some experience like making manga before joining our program. So he'd made a manga before. He'd already joined contests before joining us. But the reason why he decided to join us in the first place is because he really wanted to improve his manga. He wanted to improve his visual storytelling skills, right? So he joined the program, got mentorship, direct feedback from our Pro Mangaka mentors, and it helped him finish like his next one shot in just a matter of months, right? And he already released it on Manga Plus Creators, which you can check out. It's called Cobra the Kid, right? And we also have another student, Steven, right, who's been developing his original characters and actually joined the Japan Greece manga contest back in April and is now joining the next round of Silent Manga Edition contests, right? So Steven has improved so much, as you can see. Before joining us, he'd never made manga before, like Raven. He'd never made manga before, only ever drew character illustrations. And in just a matter of months, he already finished his first short manga, right? He already finished his first one shot, and he's already on to his next one. And it's been super inspiring to see like how much his paneling is improved and how much his storytelling is improved because Steven is really good at storytelling, as I can tell. Like he has these specific set of characters that he wants to create a whole story universe about, and it's been super exciting to see him develop that whole story, develop his characters, and like actually put them into manga, right? So yeah, now we're here to share our insights and knowledge so you can finally create your first manga this 2025 and this 2026. I mean, you still have time this 2025. You have like a month and a half to create your first manga this 2025. Or if you're still on the fence and you feel like, oh, you don't have enough time and you're not able to finish your first manga this 2025, then perhaps in 2026, right? Either way, are you guys ready? Just type I'm ready in chat. Are you guys ready? Are you ready to make your first manga this year or maybe early next year or as soon as possible, basically? Are you guys ready? Just type I'm ready in chat. All right. Okay. 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 I'm super ready. I'm loving the enthusiasm, you guys. Thank you guys so much. I'm loving it. I'm loving the energy. It's always nice to see people so enthusiastic during these live streams, you guys. It's always nice to see so many dedicated people in chat like you guys. So much appreciated. I really love all the energy in chat right now. So settle in. You guys settle in and stick around. If you believe you have a unique story to share through your manga, but after years of working on it, you still don't have anything to show, and settle in and stick around if you feel lost and overwhelmed trying to figure this all out by yourself, and you feel like you're not moving forward because you don't know where or how to get started. And also stick around if you want to find the right mentorship so you can finally publish your manga, join manga contests, and eventually work with publishers. And you can also leave right now if you simply just want to improve your art and not necessarily make a manga, right? Because if you know you're not going to do anything after this live stream, then you can leave right now. I mean, if you're, I already know what's going to happen, right? If you're just here to listen and not do anything after this entire discussion, right? After we try to teach you as much as we can, right? If you're just not going to do anything about the things that you learned today, then what is the point? Why are you here, right? I mean, if you're not going to do anything, then nothing's going to happen. Your manga won't magically appear in your hands, right? So even if we try to teach you as much as we can and all the techniques in the world, it doesn't matter if you don't take action, right? So you can leave right now if you're that type of artist or if you're that type of person. And also, you can leave right now if you're only going to listen but don't take action afterwards. I mean, I don't want to waste any more of your time, so you can leave now. And you can also leave right now if you think you can learn and do everything by yourself, right? I mean, self-learning can only take you so far, especially if you're the type of person who feels unsure of how much progress they're making or what sort of progress they're making. If you're unsure that you're actually doing this right, if you're learning paneling right, if you're learning visual storytelling right, if you're that type of person who is always second guessing every little thing as they're trying to learn the whole manga making process, then that means you need a second opinion and you need help and you need advice, right? And perhaps that's what led you to our channel, right? You're trying to make your manga, but you just don't know how to do a specific thing. Like maybe you don't know how to write good characters, or maybe you don't know how to shade and use manga sound effects, right? That sort of thing. Then that's perhaps what led you to our channel, and that's perhaps what led you to one of our videos, right? So while watching one of our videos could definitely help, and also while watching this live stream could definitely help, it's not enough to really help you specifically, right? Because getting direct feedback from pros and getting direct feedback from like mentors and coaches who have actually made manga before is entirely different from just listening and learning about it online, through videos, specifically through like tutorial videos like the ones on our channel, right? So if you feel like that's enough for you to learn the whole manga making process and let you finish an entire manga by yourself, then that's good for you. Like, you're a different type of artist. You're a genius at that point. Honestly, kudos. I mean, I really do have a lot of respect for people who've been self-taught this entire time and managed to succeed, but that's not a lot of beginners, right? Not a lot of beginners can succeed strictly just by being self-taught, right? So you can leave right now if you feel like you can learn and do everything by yourself at this point, and you're not willing to commit and make a conscious effort to practice and make time for your manga, right? So guys, you don't just become a better artist after one day, 1 week, or 1 month. I mean, you have to invest your time, effort, and dedication to truly become a better artist, right? So if you're not ready to make that commitment, then you can leave right now, right? And you can leave right now if you give up easily when things don't go your way, because we're doing this to make it easier for you, right? We're here to break down the whole manga making process to make it easier for you to understand, but it's still not going to be an easy process, right? We're going to teach you the process, but actually going through the process yourself is not going to be easy. It's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. I mean, there will still be struggles along the way, right? So, as long as you understand that, yes, we're here to help you learn the process, but you're still going to have to put in the work, right? So, if you're the type of person who's willing to put in the work and you're not willing to give up so easily, then you can stay. But if you're not, then you can leave, right? So, if you're still with me, right, I just want to say congratulations, right? If you're still here, then drop the clapping emoji in chat. Let's all celebrate. I mean, if you're still here and you're still willing to listen to the rest of the live stream and the rest of the discussion, then congratulations, give yourselves a pat on the back, right? So you choosing to stay with me tells me that you're ready to take action. You don't want to stay stuck in the exact same situation you came in with, and like struggling, not knowing what to do. You don't want to keep doing that, right? You don't want to keep struggling. You don't want to keep feeling stuck, right? So you're choosing to take action tonight. So give yourselves a round of applause for making that decision, right? So I believe that the fact that you're here tells me that you're willing to learn, right? And I just want to congratulate you on that. So the fact that you're willing to learn already is achievement enough, right? The fact that you're willing to learn and to listen and to just be present and put in the work tells me that, okay, you're serious about this, right? You're serious about wanting to make manga, right? Okay, so before we get into it, before I get into the whole process of how to make manga, right, please make sure to stay into the end to learn how you can get personal mentorship from pro Japanese mangakas and a pro manga editor and land an all expense paid trip to Japan to pitch to publishers, because these are the types of opportunities that are available to you once you join the program, right? So before we continue, here's a little info about us and why we're doing this free training in the first place, right? So a bit of an origin story for Learn to Draw Manga, right? If you could indulge me, right? I just want to share this. This is something that we try to share every live stream, because not a lot of people actually know the team behind Learn to Draw Manga and like the reason why we're even doing this in the first place. So if you would indulge me, I just want to share that for a bit, right? Because I think it'll make more sense why we're doing this in the first place. So this is Trisha. I'm not Trisha. I work for Trisha. Trisha's my boss. But I'm Candace, by the way, for those of you who don't know my name. I'm Candace, right? So this is Trisha. We're two different people. So Trisha is the owner of Learn to Draw Manga and an online art brand called Artillery Philippines, right? And just like you, she loves anime and manga. And because of her passion, she came to Japan in 2013 and she's been living in Japan ever since, right? So she's been living in Japan for a long time now, you guys. And when she came to Japan, she saw so many opportunities for aspiring manga artists here, right? Including the opportunity to learn how to make manga, right? But she realized that the opportunity to learn how to make manga in Japan was only available to Japanese people, right? Because you could only learn how to make manga at manga schools, at technical colleges for 2 to 4 years to learn to draw manga. And these technical colleges were mostly catered to Japanese students, right? So when Trisha was younger, she loved anime, manga, and drawing, but there was just no resources to learn how to draw manga in her country or anywhere else other than Japan, right? So she could only dream about it. So when she got to Japan, she thought it was unfair, and she thought, like, just because I'm not from Japan, I don't have this opportunity to learn how to make manga, right? And even though she got to Japan and she's been living in Japan for like over a decade now, she still couldn't afford to go to technical colleges in Japan, right? So she wanted to make learning how to draw manga more accessible and affordable to aspiring manga artists around the world, like her at one point, right? And that's why we're doing all of this right now, right? That's why she put together the program. That's why she recruited all the professionals in the program. She recruited Yazao Sensei, Renasaya Sensei, Steph Pastrano, and Vivi Sensei. I mean, that's the entire reason why she's here, right? Because she wants to make learning how to make manga more accessible to people like you, right? So we at Learn to Draw Manga want to empower each and every one of you. We want to help you go from stuck and struggling to confident and fulfilled by creating your first published one-shot manga. And we want to help you overcome your self-doubt and perfectionism by learning the right skills and developing the right mindset so you can prove to yourself that you can do this, right? So before we officially start the lesson, guys, you have to remember that you can make manga. You have to know that even if you've never made manga before, even if perhaps you have made manga before, but you feel like, oh, my manga sucked, you can make manga. Anyone can make manga. I mean, I know there's this. I don't. Is it the right term to call it a stigma? But like it's or maybe let's say a misconception, right? There's a common misconception among foreigners that only Japanese people can make manga. Not necessarily, right? The mentors in our program have been making manga in the Japanese industry for like decades now, and they've seen so many foreigners come into the industry and try to make manga and even get published, right? There's so many foreigners getting published in Japan right now, and even outside of Japan, right? And it's still considered manga. So if you feel like, oh, you're just not good enough, oh, then it's just not right. That's not right. You are good enough. You can make manga. Anyone can make manga. Even just look at the students in our program, right? They're all making manga and they're all pursuing making manga seriously, right? So it's not something that is unreachable. It's not an entirely impossible goal, right? So if you feel like, okay, I understand, I get you, I believe that I can make manga, then just type, I'm ready to make manga, right? So if you guys are ready, I'm gonna get into the whole lesson proper now, but I just want to make sure you guys understand that you can make manga, right? As I'm discussing the whole manga making process, I want you guys to be of the mindset that you can make manga and you believe you can go through this entire process and actually make your own manga, right? So that's very important. In order to get through this entire session, it's very important that you believe that you can make manga. All right. So just type it in chat. Just type, I'm ready to make manga. All right. And yes, feel free to draw while listening, you guys. I mean, a lot of our viewers draw during our live streams. It's really nice to see people like be productive as they listen in. So yeah, feel free. All right. Okay. How about everyone else? Is everyone else ready? Let me know. Okay, before we get into it, before I get into the lesson, I'm gonna review a couple of comments here. All right. Oh, okay. Lost to Chia says, I used to get spanked for drawing, so I had to hide in the bathroom to draw. Oh my goodness. Oh, I hope I hope that's not a thing that's still happening, Ochia. I hope you're okay. I hope you're not getting spanked still for drawing, right? Just making sure. Uh, yeah, Ziggy. Yes, people do draw during the live stream. Yeah, a lot of our students actually, when because we don't just hold live streams on the channel, we also during our mentoring sessions in the program, because we have like one-on-one mentoring sessions with like our mentors, and the students like listen in and like participate in the class, like they're drawing while they're in class. So we do encourage that, right? Because a lot of our students are pretty busy and they try to take advantage of all the free time they have to actually draw and make progress on their manga. So yeah, our students like draw manga during their work breaks, during their lunch breaks. Our students draw manga like really late into the night after their work shifts. So if you're the type of person who, okay, you're settled in, you're ready to listen to the discussion, and you feel like, okay, maybe I'm feeling productive, then feel free to draw, right? I definitely encourage you, if you're feeling like the urge to draw, then draw, right? It's always good to do that. All right. And all right, sorry. One more. I'll entertain two more questions before I get into it, because I think everyone is itching to get right into the discussion. But I'll answer two questions, right? So one, from Pasadena. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. What do you think of the terms for manga from different countries, like manhwa and manhwa? 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 Is that right? Where's manhwa from? I'm sorry, I'm not familiar. So I know manhwa, I think, is perhaps from Korea or China. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where manhwa is from. But basically, the question is, what do you think of? Do you think America should have one also, like manga? Now, the whole thing with labels is that it's primarily, I believe, like a marketing thing, right? More so than a creative decision. It's just a way for countries to differentiate the styles of their comics, right? Because manhwa is very different from actual traditional Japanese manga, right? Manhwa, I believe, is kind of, some manhwa is a bit webtoon like, right? It's not so much like very manga like. Like the design itself, the layout itself is very different from Japanese manga. So if you're talking about labels for comics, then that's a different discussion. Like it's not really manga. Manhwa isn't actually, I believe at least, you could correct me if I'm wrong. Manhwa isn't manga, right? It's two different things, right? It's not a different, manhwa isn't a different term for manga in another country. It's just an entirely different thing, period. The term is definitely the term definitely borrows from manga, but the format is entirely different, right? So manga is manga because of its unique traditional manga format. It's read right to left, right? And it's in page format, right? So manhwa is entirely different from that. All right. Okay. Another question. Manhwa. Oh, it's French. Manhwa is French. Oh, okay, okay, okay. So as I believe, I mean, I'm just learning of the term like manhwa for French manga. I know because I do know Yazawa Sensei does work with French publishers, and she has released manga in French before. Like Yazawa Sensei is one of our mentors for you guys who are just tuning in. Like she has released her manga in with French publishers before, and she always called it a manga. She'd never called it a manhwa. So that's perhaps why I'm not familiar with the term. But manga is manga. It's different. It's different. So I'm not like the best. Perhaps I'm not the best person to ask about this because I'm not entirely familiar with manhwa myself. But with manhwa, I know it's very different from manga, right? Okay, and just one more question from Guitar Zero. If we join the program, do we have to be at a certain skill level? No, we accept all skill levels. We even accept people with zero experience making manga, right? So a lot of our students actually joined the program not knowing how to make manga at all, or even some of them not knowing how to draw at all. So it's totally fine, right? So we accept all skill levels. All right, so now let's get into it. All right, I think I've entertained enough questions. I will entertain more questions later, you guys. So if you have any questions, please save them for the Q&A later. So now I want to start this discussion with this very important thing. All right, you need to avoid this number one beginner mangaka mistake. So this is something every one of you should avoid. So can you guess what it is? Leave your guesses in the comments. All right. Feel free. I mean, if you guys have been paying attention to the channel or if you've been subscribed for a while, this is something that we've discussed repeatedly through our videos. So, if you guys can guess, let me know. Just type it in chat. What is the number one beginner mistake that every mangaka or aspiring mangaka should avoid? If you don't mind me, while I wait for your guesses, I'm gonna take a sip of water. All right, give me a second. All right. So we have a couple of guesses in chat. Let me just read through your guesses real quick, okay? So Lost Chia says drawing without storyboarding. Kara says not drawing manga. Guitar says think you can't do it. Jay says perfectness. Ultra J just says I don't know, which is fine. Benny says too long, making it too long. All right. Um, MXR Vid says making manga too long and complex. All right. So MXR Vids got it right, and I believe who said it? Benny said it right. Making your manga too long and too complicated, especially when you have zero experience and you've never made manga before, right? So this is the number one mistake that every beginner makes when they're trying to make their first manga. They actually end up trying to make like 30-40 page mangas that they almost always never end up finishing because they give up halfway there. And while giving up is part of it, another part of it is because it's too long for a beginner who's never made manga before and who's never tried to tell a story in a manga format before, right? So it's definitely like a challenge to be making like a 30, 50, 60 page manga for your very first project. I mean, not some people can do it, but not everyone can do it, right? So perhaps like for you, I can pretty much guess some of you guys maybe have a story that you've been thinking of since like you were in school or since you were a kid, and you've been developing it for these past years, and it's gotten super long and super complicated, so much world building, so much lore, right? And maybe you already have your characters in mind, right? But it's gotten so long and so convoluted that you're struggling to like actually put it into a manga format now. Or maybe you've made multiple stories and just never finished any of them. Or maybe you just have so many ideas and you've just gotten distracted, right? So yeah, a part of that is because you're making your first projects too long, right? So but the Tezuka Award contest requires about 30 to 50 pages or something. Yes, the Tezuka Award contest requires 30 to 50 pages, but we do not encourage first time manga beginners to actually compete for the Tezuka Award yet. Like, if you're just making manga for the first time, I do not expect you to feel like you would be capable to actually compete in the Tezuka Award at this point, right? You're just starting out. It's your very first project. Don't expect that you can get good enough to compete in the Tezuka Award, you guys. That's just real talk. Okay. Some of our students, they have joined contests after finishing their first one shot, but that was after finishing their first one shot, and that's after going through like multiple rounds of revisions, right? It took them a while before they got to joining their first manga contests, right? So don't jump the gun too soon. All right, just because most manga contests actually require like at least big manga contests like the Tezuka Award, since they require like longer pages, that doesn't mean that you should join these types of contests as a beginner. All right, so I hope that's clear. Now, moving on. If you're guilty of any of this, right, just let me know. Just type I'm guilty in chat. Maybe you've been developing your story for years or even decades with multiple characters, a lot of story building, lore, power systems, and making it too complex, right? Or maybe you feel like you have to create your magnum opus with 50, 60, 70, or even more chapters. Or you've started on multiple stories or don't even have a single one out and finished. If this is you, just type on guilty in chat. I'm sure one of this you might be guilty of one of these things, right? Just let me know. Guitar Zero says it's best to start with the 4-panel mangas, right? Like newspaper comics. We'll get to that, Guitar. That's a good question. That's a good thought. Like, what's the best way to start actually making manga as a total beginner, right? We'll get to that. Through the watcher's eyes, I think it's best to practice with one shots as beginner. Yes, we're getting to that actually. You're way ahead of me. All right. Okay, we do have a couple of guilty people. I used to develop story for years, but I'm working on a one shot now. Yeah, guilty. I got like 100 characters and 5 power system. Is this for Nightmare? Just a question. Are those 100 characters and 5 power systems all for one manga, or is this for like different manga projects? I'm curious because it seems like you're trying to create the next One Piece there, or I don't know. Let me know. I mean, if you have 100 characters and 5 power systems for one manga, then that's a lot. Raven. Okay, different mangas. That's good. All right. Okay, all right, that's good. But still, 100 characters for different mangas is pretty. It's pretty big. It's a lot, even. It's kind of like Oda levels of world building at that point. I was guilty until I came across this channel. Nice, very good. Who else? What if I have 4 major characters for one shot? Now, I think we're gonna get into that later, but to answer your question, having 4 major characters for one shot is not ideal. I mean, our mentors always repeatedly say that the limit for a single one shot, because a single one shot is typically like 16 to 20 pages, that's the shortest a one shot can be. Um, you only have enough room and space and time in your manga to focus on at most 2 main characters, not 4, right? Because it's impossible to develop 4 main characters in just a limited amount of pages, right? Even if it is a 60-page one shot or a 50-page one shot, right? So the reason why you got to limit yourself even more, like you have to cut down on those major characters, is because you want to make sure that you're telling the best story that you can possibly tell, and you're not distracting your audience and dividing their attention between like 4 different characters, right? Because I mean, for a first time, perhaps you're not able to effectively deliver each of their stories well enough, right? Perhaps you're not able to develop each of their characters well enough for your very first time. So practice with a single character, or maybe just 2 characters, right? You gotta practice first before you pursue like even more main characters for your next manga project, right? So always practice, start small when you practice, for sure. All right, so reality check for going back to the people who said they're guilty, right? Reality check, you'd need to focus. So how do we focus, and how do we actually finish your first manga, right? So what is the ideal number of chapters for a beginner? Drop your answer in the comments. What is the ideal number of chapters for a first manga for a beginner? Like a first manga that a beginner has to make or wants to make. What is the ideal number of chapters for that very first project? Let me know. I mean, if you've been watching our videos, you should know this. All right, let me know in chat. Okay, I think everyone, I think everyone's got it. It's 1. All right, it's 1. All right, you have to learn how to make one chapter, one chapter, one shot. All right, a one chapter manga is called a one shot. All right, so a lot of pro mangakas get a break through manga contests, and you know what most manga, if not all manga contests require? They require a one shot, right? A single chapter. Yes, a single chapter. I see a couple of people who don't believe me. It's a single chapter, you guys. I mean, for most manga contests, they only require a one shot. Again, a single chapter. All right. So a lot of publishers also commission just one chapter until they get reader survey results, and popular one shots get a serialization after they get survey results from releasing the one shot, right? Because that's typically how mangas actually get serialized. It's how One Piece, it's how Dragon Ball got serialized, right? So if you compare manga to a TV series, okay, so one pilot episode or one season, if it's popular, if the pilot episode is popular, if this first season is popular, then it gets greenlit for more seasons. It's pretty much the same thing for manga. If the one shot gets popular or it gets good positive reactions from their reader base, then it gets greenlit for a series, for a serialization, right? So that's pretty much how mangas get serialized, is they all stem from that single one shot, right? So most popular manga actually had pilot chapters or pilot one shots, right? So there's the Naruto pilot, there's the Dragon Ball pilot, and there's the Attack on Titan pilot, right? They all had one shots. They all began from one shots, and their one shots ended up being popular enough to get greenlit for a series. And the mangakas behind each of these like mangas went on to develop their one shots into longer series, right? These are series that you know and love, right? And yeah, that's when their one shot is I think with Attack on Titan, it actually won an award. It was actually the one shot for Attack on Titan was actually submitted for a contest, and Isayama Sensei got connected to an editor, and that he worked with that editor to further develop Attack on Titan as a series, right? So Attack on Titan is one of the many examples of a one shot getting serialized through a contest, whereas I believe Dragon Ball Toriyama Sensei had already released another manga series prior to Dragon Ball, so he was on to his next project. So he had to make another one shot for his next project, basically, to see if it would actually perform well. And yeah, Naruto, I'm not so sure. Unfortunately, I'm not so sure what the story behind the Naruto pilot is, but yeah. Speaking of the Naruto pilot, okay, so yeah, do not obsess over the details of your one shot. I know so many of you here want to have an actual manga series, and once your one shot is approved for a serialization, that's when you work with an editor to improve the details. And speaking of the Naruto pilot, right? So as you can see here, this is just a snippet of the Naruto pilot. It's just a single page from the Naruto pilot, but it's pretty different from the Naruto that you know today, I believe. So the early design of Naruto is a bit different from like the design that we know and love, right? And also the story of Naruto was very different in the pilot. Like in the pilot, they actually had guns. Like the characters were wielding guns, right? So imagine Naruto and the rest of the ninjas just wielding guns, and that's how they fought, and that's how they resolved conflict, is through gunfights, kind of like John Wick, right? So a lot of things changed. The mangaka behind Naruto definitely like threw away that idea once he got to working with an editor. So yeah, and we also have the Attack on Titan one shot as well. I mean, this is the one shot. This is a page from the original one shot here on the left, and here's like a page from one of the later chapters, right, of Attack on Titan. So the art vastly different, right? Isayama leveled up so much from his initial one shot for Attack on Titan to like his final later chapters of Attack on Titan, right? The art is so different, and also not just the art, the characters in the original one shot for Attack on Titan were totally different. Eren wasn't in the one shot, Mikasa wasn't in the one shot, Armin, Levi, all of the characters you know and love from Attack on Titan, they weren't in the one shot. It was an entirely different set of characters, and but the premise was pretty much the same. It was just totally different characters, right? So yeah, a lot of things can change from your one shot if ever you do decide to like expand it into a series, right? The trio was out. The trio wasn't in the original one shot, unfortunately, but it was still a good read. I mean, I do recommend that you guys read like the original Attack on Titan one shot. If you're doubting whether you can make manga, just look at Isayama's very first one shot for Attack on Titan, right? The art wasn't good. It was pretty rough, I would say. Like kind of like One Punch Man web comic kind of rough. And but the story itself was really good. You could tell like Isayama had so much potential just based on this one shot alone, even though the art was rough. But yeah, the whole reason why it got greenlit into a series was because not because of the art, but because The story was just that good, right? And it was so intriguing. So that's why it got like greenlit for a series. Okay, so moving on, your art, your story, your characters, you will get to improve on them once you're up for serialization. So do not aim for perfection now. All right. So next question, what do you think is the ideal number of pages for your one shot? Let me know. Just drop your answer in the comments. Right. So what is the ideal number of pages for your very first one shot? Let me know. Let me see if you guys can actually guess. All right. If you've been paying attention, you guys should know this. All right, we have 16, we have 5 pages, really? 15, 5 to 10, 15 to 20, 16 to 20, 4, 16, 20. What do you mean, Jay? 4, 16, 20. What does that mean? 15 or 16 to 20. All right, 16 to 20. Okay, I think a lot of people have been paying attention to our videos. Yes, it is 16 to 20 pages. All right, what do you think of 16 to 20 pages? Do you think that's too long? That's too short? Let me know in the comments. How do you feel about 16 to 20 pages for your very first one shot? 20, I think, but most one shots are usually like 30. Yes, Watcher. Most one shots are usually like 30, but these are published one shots, right? So published one shots are definitely longer. But if you're making one shots to present to editors, present to publishers, or to join manga contests, it's typically 16 to 20 pages for sure. Yeah. So these one shots that are usually like 30 pages, it's because like they've already gone through an editing process and they worked with an editor on these like published one shots already. It's average. Wow, okay. Just about right. It depends on how much you put on one page. It's okay. It's not that short. All right. How do you even begin to tell a story in a limited amount of panels? All right. So we're going to get into that today. That's why we're here. So this is what our mentors say, right? You can forget about becoming a pro mangaka if you can't tell a good story in 16 to 20 pages. This is from Yazawa sensei, right? And we also have Vivi, who says, I'd rather have a good short story than 60 pages of confusion, right? Because that's where you practice. You practice with short projects because short projects, they're faster to do, they're easier to get through because they're short, and you're able to like move on from project to project if you're consistently like making short projects from the get-go, like as you're starting out, right? So it's not just less um intense, but it's easier for beginners to go through short projects and practice their skills with short one shots like this, right? So the average number of pages for one chapter in Shonen Jump is actually 20 pages, and you need to hook your readers and make them want more within those limited number of pages, right? So do not overwhelm yourself with an impossible task of making a 100 chapter manga on your first try. I mean, don't even try a 50 to 60 page one shot yet, and start with a standalone one shot with 60 to 20 pages, right? So it's a good way for you, like I said earlier, 60 to 20 pages, good way for you to practice and to keep practicing. Like you can, after you're done with your first 16 to 20 page one shot, you can easily go and move on to practicing on your next 16 to 20 page one shot and just improve with every one shot that you make, right? So it's a good way to practice. All right. So now on to the 7 steps to make your manga. And the first step is ideation and planning, right? And this is what Rena Saya Sensei has to say. The most challenging part of being a mangaka is coming up with good ideas. And this is an ideation formula that our pro mangakas teach our students. This is what they start our students off with if they're having trouble like coming up with ideas for their first one shot, right? So it's a simple what if, subject plus verb, and you fill in the blanks, right? So for example, what if a high school genius discovered a notebook that could kill anyone whose name he wrote in it? Right? This is a what if scenario for a popular manga series that you guys may know of. So any guesses um what this manga is? What do you think this idea is? What manga idea this is? Any guesses? I mean, it's pretty obvious, you guys. Death Note, Death Note, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. Anyone who didn't guess Death Note? All right. So it's Death Note. All right. Death Note by Tsugumi Oba and Takeshi Obata. All right. So let's try that one more time. What if a boy who's a martial arts prodigy finds 7 power stones? What manga is this? Can you guys guess? Okay. It's taking a while for people to guess, or maybe it's just the lag on my end. All right. All right. All right. All right. It's Dragon Ball. All right, people got it right. It's Dragon Ball. It's not Rent a Girlfriend. It's Dragon Ball. I know you're being funny, but if you're being serious, really, it's Dragon Ball, right? So just like that, right? With that simple formula, you can switch up the subject and verb to come up with different ideas. And since it's so easy, you can make up a bunch of these what if scenarios, right? You can write up to 20, 30 ideas and just go through the process of elimination, right? Out of the 20 ideas that you come up with, you choose the 10 that stand out, and from that 10 you choose the 5 that really stand out to you, and then you bring it down to your top 3 until you bring it down to the one idea that really speaks to you and you're really drawn to, right? So once you have that idea, next is to identify your target audience. This is something that a lot of beginners don't really think about when they're making manga. Is you're not making manga just for yourself to read, you're making manga for others to read. So you have to consider the person, the people who will be reading your manga. That is your target audience, right? So if you want to be a pro mangaka, you need to learn to create a story that an audience would enjoy, not just you or your family or your friends, right? So while it is important for you to make a manga project that you're personally passionate about and to tell a story that you want to tell, I mean, if you want to publish eventually and you want to share your story, your manga to the world, then you have to think about your readership, your target audience, and think about what connects your story to your readers on an emotional and entertainment level, right? And many aspiring manga artists fall into this trap where they just make manga that they like and that's just interesting to them and only they get, right? Or maybe only them and their friends get and no one else gets, right? And while that's fine, I mean, if you just want to make manga for yourself, that's totally valid. But if you want to make manga for people to read, for other people to read, not just you or your friends or your family, but for like the public to read, then you have to understand what makes your readers turn the page, what makes your readers interested and want to read a manga, perhaps your manga, right? So you have to understand what could draw an audience, what's compelling, ways to engage an audience and make them hooked, right? And deliver an experience that they genuinely enjoy. So being a pro isn't just about drawing what you like, it's about crafting something that others will love too, right? So being a manga artist doesn't just involve art skill, drawing skill, or like storytelling skill, but it also involves like an understanding of people, right? What do you think? I mean, as a manga fan yourself, right? It involves like an understanding of manga fans as well. So if you're a manga fan yourself and you've read a ton of manga, you should know what it's like to be a manga reader, right? So being a manga artist involves switching hats between creator and reader, essentially. I hope you get it. But yeah, ask yourself, who is this manga for? Who is this manga for? Like, is this story, what type of reader is this manga story that I'm making for? Basically. So these are the most common manga demographics in the industry right now. That's shonen, shoujo, seinen, and josei. Now, shonen is young boys aged 12 to 18. Shoujo is young girls aged 12 to 18. Seinen is for men aged 18 and above. And josei is for women aged 18 and above. So manga demographics are entirely different from manga genres. Okay, that's something that a lot of people um make the mistake of confusing. They confuse demographics with genres, which isn't the case, right? So shonen, so shoujo, seinen, and josei, these are basically like age demographics for manga readers. All right. So Shonen Jump, they basically release all types of genres. I believe you see in Shonen Jump stories that are like slice of life and Shonen Jump action as well, but they're all geared towards a certain age demographic. That's young boys age 12 to 18, right? Yes, Berserk is a seinen manga. Yes. So that's something that you need to keep in mind, all right? Demographics are different from genres, all right? So if you want to get published in Shonen Jump, then your target is shonen or young boys age 12 to 18. And if you want to feature more mature themes, then your target audience should be people over 18. So if it's women, that's josei. If it's men, that's seinen, right? So these are examples of seinen manga. Monster, Berserk, Vagabond. These are seinen manga targeted towards men who are above 18 years old, right? And one of the most common beginner mistakes that beginners make is they have no clear audience for their manga. Like they don't know who their story is for, right? So if you have no audience, then you're basically drawing for anyone who would be willing to read your manga. And that's not good, right? So because what do you call it when you want to draw for everyone, right? It is a recipe for disaster. If you want to draw the type of story that anyone would read, like your grandma would want to read, or maybe your classmates, or maybe your fellow like peers would want to read, or maybe older people would want to read, that's impossible, right? Because look at One Piece. One Piece is the most popular manga in the world, but it still has haters. Arguably, One Piece is arguably like the most universally read manga. I mean, it's definitely the most popular manga, but not everyone likes One Piece, right? So, One Piece is proof that even the most beloved manga in the world isn't for everyone. So, you can't make manga that's for everyone, right? So, it's impossible. There's no such thing as a universally appealing story that every single person in the world will agree is good and every single person in the world will want to read, right? So trying to please everyone will only jeopardize the story you want to tell. So rather than try to aim for everyone, think of your target audience and concentrate on your target audience. All right. So now now that we've established that you need a target audience and you need an idea, right? You have your idea, you have your target audience in mind. Now is the time to develop your idea even further. So now we create a one sentence pitch, and this is called a log line, right? So what is a log line? Now imagine you went to an anime convention and the special guest is an editor from Shonen Jump, and you go into the elevator and you meet this editor, and it's just the two of you, and you just have 30 seconds to sell them your story. That's where your logline comes in. That's where your pitch comes in, right? So here's an example of a pitch, right? So after an orphaned high school girl discovers her classmates are cursed to transform into animals of the Chinese zodiac, she helps them break the curse while finding her own place in the world. This is a pitch for a manga that you guys may know of. It's certainly, if you read shoujo manga, it's certainly a manga that you should be familiar with. right? So can you guess what manga is this? What manga is this pitch for? Any guesses? I don't see any guesses in chat. Does no one read shoujo here? That's it's not Jujutsu Kaisen. No, it's not Ranma. All right, finally. Okay, thank God. Okay, we do have a few shoujo enjoyers in chat. It's Fruits Basket. You guys, oh my gosh, that took a while. I mean, it took a while, or maybe it's just the lag on my end, but it's Fruits Basket. It's not Ranma. Ranma is different, you guys. So Fruits Basket, the guys turn into animals when the main MC, the female MC, like hugs them. And it's not just the main MC, it's when any type of woman of the opposite sex like hugs them. So yeah, that's the whole shtick behind Fruits Basket. Yeah, yeah. So we do the same exercise with our students, right? Being able to create a one sentence pitch like this has helped them boil all their ideas down into a solid story idea, and it's helped them focus. So once you have your one sentence pitch, the next thing you need to do is in your logline, right? Do not use character names or terminology that another person will not understand, right? So, the name of the character in Fruits Basket is Toru Honda, and perhaps when you're coming up with the idea for your manga, you already have the name of the character in mind. But when you're making the pitch for your manga, do not use that character's name in your pitch, because you have to make sure that your pitch is as universally comprehensive as possible. So, universally comprehensive as in anyone who you're meeting for the first time can totally get what your story is about, and just like as soon as you finish your saying your pitch, right? So, when you're making your pitch, you have to use easily recognizable words. You have to use descriptors like if your MC's name is Toro Honda, then use a descriptor like an orphan girl, because that's who your MC is. They're an orphan girl. And for Dragon Ball, let's say you're making a pitch for Dragon Ball, but you don't say Dragon Ball in your pitch. You just say, okay, these are power stones that give like power to the people who wields these stones, right? So very simple, very easy to understand, right? So when you're making a pitch, you have to make sure that it's very easy to understand and anyone can get it right away. All right. And you don't have to explain it even further, because if you have to explain even further, then that might be a sign that your pitch was not as effective, right? So, yeah. All right. So, to help you create your logline, answer your 5 W's and 1 H questions. Yes, an angel is a very recognizable term. It's a common noun, right? So avoid proper nouns. All right. If you know what common and proper nouns is, then it should be easy for you. Just focus on using common nouns in your pitch. No proper nouns. All right. So moving on, to help you create your logline, answer 5 W's and 1 H questions. So these are your who, what, when, where, why, and how. And do not skip any of these questions, you guys, because as you answer them, right, like who is your main character, what is their goal, when does this happen, the 21st century, the year 3000, where does this happen, the Japan, the US, I mean, why does the MC need to hit their goal, and how does the MC hit their goal, right? As you answer each of these questions, you create an overview of your story that's a bit more detailed, right? And once you've answered all of that, right? Once you've answered your 5 W's and 1 H, and once you've developed your logline even further through these questions, then the next thing you need to do is to actually start writing, start developing your story. So you create a plot, right? Very simple. It's so easy to say create a plot, but it's not as simple as you think, right? So a plot is a written summary of your story to help you visualize the scene, right? And not a lot of I'm sure writing scripts is something that most, if not all, mangakas do. But I do know of some mangakas who write scripts alongside the storyboarding stage, so the process might be different for you. Whatever is more comfortable for you. Perhaps you want to like write out your scripts before getting into the storyboarding stage. I know our pro mangaka mentors definitely do that. Like they write a very short script, like literally just a one page summary of the chapter that they're working on, and then that's what they use to inform their storyboards from there. So this is an example of a plot, right? This is an example of a plot from our mentor Yazawa Sensei, and this single page is the entire plot of her one shot that she worked on, right? So this is how she writes the scripts for her one shot. It's not really a script because there's no dialogue in Yazawa Sensei's plot summaries, but she really just focuses on, okay, what happens, summarizes what happens in the entire one shot, and then she works out the dialogue along the way as she's storyboarding. That's her process, right? So for her, 16 pages equals a 1-page plot summary. So if you add the dialogues, then you might end up with 2 pages if you want to get the dialogue down early on. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Do not make your plot summary too long, right? If you're only making a 16-page, 20-page one shot, then just make your summary concise, right? Just keep it to like 1 to 2 pages, right? Making it even longer than that, you might end up like not finishing it at all, because you're just constantly like reworking it. And I do know some mangakas who get stuck during this stage because they don't know how to summarize their one shot, because they're having trouble like planning it out even in this stage. So limit yourself. It's always best to limit yourself and give yourself like a challenge, right? If you limit yourself to just 2 pages, then you're forced to really focus on the essential details of your one shot as you're planning out the plot, right? So to create a compelling plot, you need these 4 elements, right? That's the ki, shoten, getsu. Ki is the introduction, sho is the development, ten is the climax, and getsu is the resolution. So if you only have 16 pages for your one shot, how are you going to divide it? You're going to divide it between these stages. Like, for example, perhaps 4 pages for the intro, 4 pages for the development, for the climax and resolution each. It's up to you. Or if you want to adjust and you want to dedicate more time to the development of your story, then maybe adjust the rest of the pages for your intro or resolution. Maybe dedicate less pages for the intro, right? So as you're coming up with the plot, already think of the ki, shoten, ketsu, and plan out your pages using the structure already, right? It's always best to plan it ahead of time, right? That way you can really iron out all of the details of your story early on, right? So yeah, sorry about that. Now on to visual design. So there are 2 levels to visual design. That's character design and setting design. Setting design is optional for a one shot because world building isn't that essential or isn't that significant in a one shot. So we're going to be focusing mostly on character design for this discussion, right? So for character design, right, when we asked our students early on, when our students first join our programs, this is something that we always ask them to do. Like if they have existing characters that they've already been working on prior to the program, we ask them to share their characters and like share them with our mentors, right, and talk about them, right? So when we asked them to show us their original characters, their OCs, we didn't give them specific instructions on how to present them or how to show them, right? We just asked them to show us their characters, and they showed us some really great designs. These are some examples of character designs that our students gave us, and as you can see, like beautifully drawn out characters, really interesting costume design, really interesting features, right? Very interesting designs, very detailed designs. And when we got to discussing their designs, right, when Yazawa Sensei, one of our mentors, eventually asked them why they designed their characters that way, like why were they dressed this way, why is their hair like that, why do they look like that, why are their expressions like that, right? Most, if not all of them, would say that they designed this character that way, oh, just because it looked cool, right? That's it. No purpose, no meaning behind the design. It's literally just, oh, because I thought it looked cute. Oh, because I thought they looked cool like this. And that's it, right? They were all about the visuals, the aesthetics. But when you're designing characters, you have to draw with intention, right? Their design is a reflection of their personality. So this is where storytelling comes in. This is where your storytelling skill has to come in as you're designing characters as well. It's not just about the drawing and the look of your characters, but it's also about the story of your characters, right? So there are three levels to character design, right? That's visual design, features, and essence. And most people just focus on visual design. That's the very tip of the pyramid. And quite a few people get to level two, which is their features. And features are basically their character profile, right? So this is an example of features, right? Features are basically like your character's basic information, sort of like their resume. What's their age? What's their birthday? I mean, what are their likes and dislikes? Pretty much that's feature, right? So this is an example of like a character profile of Joseph Joestar from JoJo, and this is level two of character design, like breaking down the character's features. But a lot of beginners mangakas only stop at their features, at the very basic information about their characters, and that's not enough to create a truly memorable character. It's not enough that you just know their birthday or their age or where they're from. You know, you have to dig deeper, and you gotta think about the essence of your character and who your character is as a person, right? So that's the third level. That's the essence. So how do we figure out the essence of your character, right? So here's a very simple activity that I want to put you guys through, right? So I want you guys to think of one of your OCs, right? So think of one of your OCs, what's their name, and share it in the chat or in the comments, right? It could be any one of your existing OCs. I want to know who are they? Let me know. Just share your OC's name and chat. All right. If you have multiple OCs, just choose one for now. We only need one for this activity, you guys. All right. So if you have an OC, if you have one OC already in mind, then just share them in chat. All right. All right, all right. We have a couple of names. That's oh, it's so interesting seeing these names. We have a couple of like Japanese names, I believe. Mm-hmm. Toriko, Wolfram. Wow, Wolfram is a very interesting name. Sosa, Brenna, hello. Hello. I'm saying hello to your OCs, you guys. All right. Ago. Oh, hi, Ago. Hi, Spike. Catrick Hailstorm. Wow. That's cool. Sempiternal Null is wait, is that your character's name? Sempiternal? Wow. That's definitely a name that I've never heard before. Charisse Stokely. I'm seeing a lot of like similar same letter names. Um like SSCC. That's very typical with comic characters and some manga characters as well. All right, who else? Baron Verbania. All right, Gatatsu. All right, Laveau Lafay. Laveau Raven Lafay. All right, Jess Valentine. All right. So, thank you guys for sharing your OCs. Thank you guys so much for sharing them. Now, I want you to imagine your OC in this scenario. All right. So, if you saw, if your OC saw an old lady trying to cross a busy street, what would they do? Share your answers in chat. Let me know. What would your OC do? Right? For Kev, what would Katrick do? For Marshall, what would Charisse do if they saw an old lady trying to cross a busy street? What would they do? Let me know. Thinking, what do you mean run the pockets? What does that mean? Caress says, try and help them. Ask if they need assistance. Walk past her unless she had a dog to converse with. Aw. So your character likes dogs more than people. I can relate to that a bit. They'd pick up the old lady up off the floor and place them on the other side. Nice. So I do see a lot of people whose characters would help, and I am seeing a couple of people who would just not, whose characters would just not do anything. uh, um. All right, we have a couple of good goody two shoes characters in chat who would help the old lady, and we also have a couple of like nonchalant people, characters in chat who would just not ignore. um. Teleport her to her house. All right. Sosa would look to see if the path is safe and run to the old lady, tell her something cool, like hang on and fly her street like a smooth gentleman. Wow, you even thought of the interaction of like of your character saying like a one liner like hang on, like oh. That's cool. I love the attention to detail. That's great storytelling there. Oh, Satric. Thank you, Kev. Sorry. Thanks for correcting me. So, Satric is trained to help her, but he might second guess if he didn't have time. Okay, so your character's a busy person. All right. Balance says, wait a second, scanning with her eyes, then slowly walk up, not trying to draw attention, and ask if she wants some help. That's very nice. I like how some of you guys are very detailed in how they approach the lady, right? And how very detailed in the interaction. That's really nice. That attention to detail is really going to help you with coming up with the essence of your character for sure, right? I mean, for example, right here is an example of the characters from Naruto, right? From Team 7 from Naruto. For example, like Naruto would carry the old lady on her back, Sakura would hold her hand and guide her across the street, and Sasuke would just straight up ignore the old lady, right? So it's when you think of your characters in these sort of scenarios, it really helps humanize them, right? And creating humanizing your characters is very essential if you want people to be able to relate to your characters, right? So think of your characters as actual people, right? So according to Yazawa sensei, designing characters is literally imagining and creating a person with a history, relationships, goals and motivations, fears and struggles that shape their entire personality, right? So just think about your favorite anime and manga characters. I mean, they mean so much to you, not just because they look cool. I mean, it's because you love their story, right? And let's think of your favorite manga character. I mean, my favorite manga character is not a main character, but off the top of my head, my favorite I have so many favorite characters right now, but recently my favorite character now has been is I guess oh my god, what have I been reading recently? Okay, recently I've been reading a lot of One Piece. So I would say my favorite character now at the moment is Zoro. I mean, Zoro has always been a favorite of mine. Because I do read One Piece on and off. So Zoro's always been a favorite character of mine. But I didn't really fall in love with Zoro until like maybe 100 chapters in to One Piece, right? Because it wasn't until we really got into Zoro's backstory that I started to fall in love with his character, right? I mean, if you know, you know, you guys. If you follow One Piece, you know what moment I'm talking about. Like, I mean, just not to gush about Zoro from One Piece, but he's just awesome. Like he's just an awesome character, such a cool, awesome character, very well developed. I feel. I mean, there are definitely more well developed characters in One Piece, but I just particularly love Zoro's development because I just love him as a character and I love the way he is as a character, right? He's not a real person, but I view him as like the sort of person that's really worth admiring, right? If he were a real person. So Yeah, I am a Zoro fangirl. Yeah, I mean, give him a break. he he has he gets lost. Yeah, sure, but that's just a small thing. We can fix him. Like, give him a phone. Maybe if One Piece ever comes up with phones and like there's like navigation in phones, it's an easy fix. Is what I'm saying, right? Zoro always gets lost. Easy fix, right? It's just it's minuscule compared to his very appealing and very great qualities, right? So yeah, GPS route, yeah. That actually that would be great. That would be great. Like he has like he eats like a GPS fruit. What would that fruit be called though? Yeah, keep a transponder stale. Yeah, put a bell on it. You guys are funny. I mean, I love that you guys have thought of this, for sure. I mean, I haven't really thought of it because I really don't think like his um lack of spatial awareness was ever like a disadvantage or like a con, because he's just that great of a character, you guys. All right, so moving on. Sorry, I got sidetracked talking about Zoro, but yeah, he's a great character, and that love for these sorts of characters doesn't just come from the way they look, right? It comes from their essence and how they are as characters in the story, how they're developed as characters in the story, right? And you got to be able to really love your own original character, right? Your own original character deserves that same kind of love and attention, because they're not just a drawing that you come up with, right? They're the soul of your story. If you want to place your character into a manga and center your entire story around that character, then you have to treat them with so much attention to detail, right? If you want readers to care about them, you need to give them the same love, depth, and attention as any iconic manga protagonist, right? So these characters aren't just cool designs like maybe like main characters like Luffy, Naruto, Guts, Deku. They're not just their designs, there's so much more. They have clear goals, they have strong personalities, I mean emotional depth and flaws that make them feel like relatable, make them feel real. And that's why people keep flipping the page, is because they love the characters and they want to follow these characters, right? So now that we know the three levels of character design, let's go briefly through setting design. Right now, I think I mentioned that setting design, this is optional, but you could do this if you have extra time, right? If you're into world building, perhaps maybe this is something you might enjoy. But setting design is basically, what does your character's world look like, right? If your character is like a high school student and they're living at home, you would have to think, okay, what does your character's room look like, right? And if you have a fictional world as your setting, you can create rough sketches like this on screen. So, imagining the world that your characters live in definitely helps with being consistent already with your settings from the get go. And when you explain the world to your editor, eventually, if you do manage to get the opportunity to like pitch your manga to an editor, having these setting designs would come in handy, right? So just so the editor has a better idea of what the world is like for your manga, right? Now, let's move on to the fourth step, storyboarding. All right, so are you guys guilty of skipping storyboarding and drawing pages as you go? I mean, have any of you storyboarded before? If not, just say I'm guilty. If you've never storyboarded before, just say I'm guilty. And while you're at that, give me like 2 seconds, you guys. I need to get water. All right. I'm back. All right. Anyone guilty already? Oh, we do have a couple of guilty people already. All right. I can still barely draw while I'm trying. Okay. I guess guilty, but just once for practice. So maybe you Wait, what do you mean? Like you skipped storyboarding once for practice, or you just did storyboarding once for practice? Hmm. Guitar Zero brings up a very good question. Those are thumbnail sketches, right? Like the plan of how your story is going to look visually. Now, thumbnail sketches is a different level to storyboarding for sure. It's part of storyboarding, but it's different from your actual storyboard. I would say they're kind of different in that sense. So thumbnail sketches, these are even rougher than storyboards. It's a way for you to we're going to get into it later, but yeah, I'm not sure if I should get into it right now because I am going to get into it later. But yeah, thumbnail sketches, basically thumbnail sketches are a bit different from the actual storyboards. Yeah. Yeah, essentially, like storyboarding is the final version of a thumbnail. Yeah. I could never skip storyboarding. That's good. That's a good habit to have. Rayshawn says, I write down outlines for days. I go through multiple drafts before starting to draw. I have a bad habit of cutting stuff from outlines. When I want to draw, then have to start over. That's nice. That's a good habit to have, honestly. And we'll get into it, right? Yes, storyboards are names in Japanese, right? So for those of you who have skipped the storyboard, right, here's why you shouldn't skip the storyboard. Don't. Right? Don't skip because you're more likely to end up with a poorly planned manga if you do skip the storyboard. Because your storyboard is basically the blueprint for your manga, right? Just like how you wouldn't start building a house without a blueprint or without a solid plan, you shouldn't start drawing your manga without a well thought out storyboard, right? Because let's say like you try to construct a house um from the get-go without any plans, without a blueprint, you might forget to include important elements like maybe, oh, I forgot to put a door here, I forgot to put a window in this room, I forgot to put ventilation in this room, you know. So if you don't have a plan, then you're setting yourself up for more mistakes and more frustration when you're making your manga, honestly. I mean, when you draw pages without a plan, you might realize too late that something doesn't work and you have to redo entire pages, you know, and that's always a big pain in the process, right? So a storyboard saves time by helping you catch problems before you start inking and finalizing your work. Did you guys catch that? I was gonna say a pain in the but I had to stop. Okay, that's not the place for this. All right. So yeah, again, the storyboard saves you time. All right. So in Japanese, the storyboard is called nemu. Its name, the translate the it's spelled as name, but it's pronounced as nemu, right? And there is an art to visual storytelling. Your name will provide you with an overview of the whole flow of your story. So imagine watching a movie, right? And you just sit, watch, and everything flows naturally, right? And it's the same with manga. So let's look at this spread from My Hero Academia. This isn't a storyboard, this is a final page, but we'll get into why a storyboard is important after we go through this page, for example, right? So look at this spread from My Hero Academia. I'm gonna give you guys a second to like read through it real quick. It's a pretty quick read, but yeah. So you guys should be, I think you guys should be good now. So in this page from My Hero Academia, your readers have to glide through your panels and pages without them even thinking. So if you look at the red line on screen, right, that's going through the entire page, this is your reading flow, right? So our eyes enter from the first speech bubble from the top right, and we go down through that panel to the second speech bubble. Then we're directed to the largest panel on the page. This is the focus panel, as we call it. And as you go through the focus panel, we go down to the third panel and follow the dialogue till the end of the page on the bottom left, right? As you can see, the flow is pretty straightforward, it's very smooth, and this is the type of flow that you need to establish right from your storyboarding stage, right? So that's the point of storyboarding, is establishing this flow early on and making sure that the flow in your manga pages makes sense, and um it allows your pages to be easy to read, right? So storyboarding helps you plan out the panels, helps you plan out the reading flow of your manga pages, and makes sure that your manga pages are easy to read, right? So let's go through an example of like a beginner manga, right? So this is a beginner amateur manga from CTXNS. So this is Fire Sakura, right? So I'm gonna give you guys a minute to like go through these pages from Fire Sakura and let me know, okay, what are some of your observations about this manga? Maybe some improvements. What's your feedback for this manga? What do you think we could do to improve this manga even more? What are your thoughts? All right, I'm gonna give you guys a second to think about that. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Mm. All right, you all bring up very good points. All right, panels are not good enough. Too many box panels. It's a bit plain, right? Panels should be improved. Panels are too repetitive. Lack of coherent flow. Lots of close-up faces. Right, you're all right, you guys. So there's lots of headshots and bust shots, similar angles and perspective, and redundant paneling. All, if not all of the most, if not all of the panels are just square panels, and heavily reliant on dialogue to drive the story. The scenes themselves aren't that visually interesting or aren't that dynamic because they're mostly just headshots and bust shots, right? You can mostly follow along the story just by relying on the dialogue at this point, right? So that these are some of the problems that you guys have already pointed out. So I'm glad you guys were able to like recognize that. Now, how do we fix this, right? How do we fix these problems? All by simply following the principle of show, don't tell, right? This is something that our mentors repeatedly have to remind our students every day, every single class, right? Show, don't tell. You gotta let your art, you gotta let your scenes speak for themselves. Let your scenes tell the story, not the dialogue, not the text, right? So when you watch a movie, right, are there different scenes? There's long shots, there's mid shots, there's close up shots, there's fight scenes, emotional scenes. It's the same with manga. You have to think of yourself as a director for your manga, right? So you have to think, okay, what is the best way I could present this scene in my manga, right? So here's an example. So let's check out two different versions of the same scene with the same characters, right? So the one on the left here is just a single panel of the same scene. It's a guy asking a girl, want to go home together today? And the girl just says, sure. And it's all done in a single panel. And the characters are both in that panel, right? So over and done in a single panel. Now, look at the version on the right, right? The one on the right is so much more dramatic and so much more cinematic, and it's done in 3 panels in a single manga page. So the first panel is the guy asking the same thing, want to go home together today. And we don't cut straight to the girl saying sure, we cut to the girl's reaction. She's shocked, she's flustered. You can see the blush effect on her face, and her eyes are all wide and all that. And then after that we cut to a long shot of both characters in this seemingly romantic shot. It looks like they're all alone in a park of sorts, right? And the girl finally says sure as she is like standing close to the guy, right? So much more impactful. Can you see the difference, right? I mean, having the scene is in a single panel is not as impactful as like laying it all out like it is in the second version, right? You don't really want to know more. I mean, I it's I don't feel that the girl character is affected by the question. I don't feel that she feels shocked or feels flustered by the question in the first version. But in the second version, I can definitely tell, oh, this girl likes the guy, or this girl perhaps is flustered by this entire interaction or by the question, you know? So that's how you improve your storytelling, just by switching up the shots, switching up the angles, right? And pacing the story, right? Not just pacing. This has a lot to do with the difference in pacing, right? The pacing in the first version, it's all just in a single panel. That's just quick, done, one single panel, very fast paced. Whereas in the second version, it's the scene is broken down into 3 panels, so it's spaced out a bit more, right? By breaking it down into 3 panels, the pacing is a bit slower. It's a bit more how do you call this? There's a bit more anticipation, right? There's a bit more drama in that sense. So yeah, the second version is definitely better, right? So now, when you're storyboarding, right? These are the types of things that you have to figure out when you're storyboarding, right? And you can storyboard through thumbnails, right? Draw out the thumbnails for all pages and evaluate. So here is an example of actual thumbnails for a manga, and you want a thumbnail in 2-page spreads, right? And being able to thumbnail like this, this is a very, very rough version of your storyboard. Storyboards are a bit more detailed. They're a more detailed version of your thumbnail, but the point of a thumbnail is to basically plot out your panels right from the thumbnail stage, right? Because you have to make sure, okay, are my panels dynamic enough, nothing too redundant, nothing too weird with the reading flow, right? Can you combine scenes to make some scenes even tighter, right? So that's the point of having the thumbnail, is to make sure that the reading flow is right and that your scenes are have a good variety to them, right? So this is where you're able to see the balance and flow between spreads, which can help you improve the overall like story of your manga, for sure, right? So as you're storyboarding, you also have to figure out, okay, how do your scenes look as a spread? Because when people read your manga, they're reading it in like 2-page spreads, most likely, especially if this is like a printed version, or maybe they're reading it online. And sometimes there are some publishers who release their mangas, I think, in 2-page spreads. I know Shonen Jump and Viz, like, they definitely like release online versions of manga still in 2-page spreads, right? So as you're storyboarding, you have to think of how your pages look like in spreads. So when you have a manga in your hand, you read 2 pages at a time. So your first panel on your right page is your entry point. It's the opening scene from your previous spread, your previous page. And the last panel on your left is your exit point. And readers have to feel like they want to flip that page once they get to the end of your spread, right? So here's an example of a storyboard draft from one of our students, right? So here's a storyboard from our student Raven, right? A lot of panels, as you can see from the get-go, and so much text, so much dialogue, right? But after going through a couple of rounds of revisions with our mentors, this is what her final storyboard ended up looking like, right? So what are your observations, right? From 13 panels, she brought this exact same spread down to just 7 panels total across both pages, right? So this is how you make your story tighter, and you also this is how you improve the reading flow. This is also how you improve like the scenes, like the composition of your scenes, how dynamic your scenes are, right? Because having too much panels in your spread can often overwhelm a reader, right? Because when you have too many panels, your eyes are constantly going back and forth between so many panels, right? And not very comfortable for most readers, right? When you have too many panels, you don't want them to feel overwhelmed from the get-go trying to figure out and make sense of what's going on, because there's just so much going on, because there's just so much panels, right? So if you want to make the reading experience even easier, you have to um, make the reading experience easier, like less panels. Keep in mind the reading flow, how often the reader is like switching through panels. That's key. And if the flow makes sense, right? So every panel matters, and everything has to be intentional like that. I mean, I know a lot of beginners, like, they want to include a lot of info in their manga, but they really don't know how to pace their mangas, right? Like with Raven in her very first draft, like there's so much info, and this is one of her earlier pages, one of the earlier pages in her one shot, right? And there's already so much info right from the get-go. So that's gonna kill your manga. Like, overwhelming your reader right from the get-go is definitely gonna kill your manga. So what makes Japanese mangakas a bit different from most creators is that they know how to show and not tell, and they follow this main basic principle of less is more, right? If you look at manga, they really do value like space or moments of silence. I mean, this is something that we actually do discuss in one of our videos. This is called ma, right? So moments of ma, where there's not a lot of dialogue. There is moments in manga where characters are simply there and the story breathes and the pace slows down a bit because characters are taking something in, or they're reacting to something before they speak, right? So having these breathing moments throughout your story lets your readers breathe as well. I know it's not something that's in this discussion right now, but it's very important if you want to learn how to pace your manga properly, as to not overwhelm your reader. So if you want to learn more about like paneling tips, you can check out one of our paneling videos. I think our latest paneling video, we do discuss it. So I do recommend that you check that out after this video if you want to learn more about paneling, because we don't really get into paneling techniques in this live stream, unfortunately, because we only have so much time. So yeah, less is more when you're paneling, for sure. And we also have another example here. Now this example of a storyboard from Courtney is a bit different. So this is her initial storyboard of one of her spreads, and this is like a very important moment. This spread is a very important moment in her one shot. It's when her characters defeat like the big boss, the final monster, and all of that. And when Yazawa Sensei saw this, she thought that, okay, the set piece is great already, but to make it even more impactful and to make it even more like emotionally, to make the readers even more emotionally involved in the scene that's happening, Yazawa Sensei recommended that Courtney added reaction shots on the sides, because there is the space, right? So adding reaction shots like this helps the readers know what the characters are feeling in that moment, right? This is a very big moment in the one shot, right? The context, this is a very big moment in Courtney's one shot, and we're not seeing how the characters are feeling in that moment, which is a shame. Like, it would be a missed opportunity to not show what the characters are feeling, right? So that's why Yazawa Sensei suggested that she add reaction shots of both characters as they're defeating the big monster. And this is what the final page ended up looking like, right? It's a big scene. There's so much impact. You can feel the impact, and it's doubled because you can see how the characters are reacting. They feel triumphant. They're like screaming as they're defeating the monster, right? So there's a bit of a catharsis in this moment. It adds a bit of a catharsis for the readers as well. Now, finally, they've defeated this monster, and finally, you can see just their hard work and all of their struggles paying off, right? So, yeah, it really emphasized the impact of the scene even more, right? So, now, oh, give me a second. All right. So, as you're storyboarding, right, I hope looking at our students' examples, right, you have to remember that don't be scared to edit, right? Because your first draft always needs edits. So it's better now to edit your storyboards than later, because it'll be even harder to edit beyond the storyboarding phase, that's for sure. So, next up, we're nearly there. We're at step 5, pencil sketches. Right. So, for pencil sketches, when you're making a manga, you want to have a B4 size manuscript paper. So, if you're making manga traditionally by hand, the standard is pretty much B4 size, and this will be printed in B5. So, it's going to be compressed in size down, right? So, if you've seen any behind the scenes of mangakas making manga, you'll find that they use pretty big like manuscript paper. That's because using bigger paper allows them to go into more detail and when they're drawing their scenes, and when it gets printed, that big paper gets sized down into B5. Yeah. So as you've noticed, there are margins in traditional manga manuscript paper, not just for like actual paper, but also for digital templates on Clip Studio Paint, which is the pretty much standard tool that most mangakas use when they're drawing manga digitally, right? They use Clip Studio Paint. So their manuscripts always have these guidelines, right? So these guidelines tell the mangakas where they should draw their manga, right? And they should not draw anything beyond these margins, or else it'll be cut out. So right. So these are your bleed lines. They're called bleed lines, and anything beyond these bleed lines are going to be cut out, right? So this is an example. The one on screen is an example of a page, of a right page, right? It's a page on the right, and the margins are larger on the left side of the page because this is a right page, right? So the margins that are larger are actually around the spine of the manga, so it'll be harder to see. So that lets the mangakas know, okay, they shouldn't draw um, in the spine area, right? So next, you can actually buy, if you're committed to drawing manga traditionally, right? If you're committed to drawing manga traditionally and you want to draw it by hand, you can buy manga manuscript paper with these guidelines, or you can just set the paper size on your digital program like Clip Studio Paint, right? But I do recommend that if you're starting out and you're just practicing, don't use actual manga manuscript paper, right? Because it gets pretty expensive. And if you're just practicing, you wouldn't want to waste so much money on manuscript paper for sure. So if you want to practice, a simple bond paper or a sketch pad will do. It's totally fine. Or a notebook. Anything at your disposal is totally fine, right? So next, inking. This is the second to the last step. Now, when you're inking, you ink the line art, the panel lines, the speech bubbles, the speed lines, and the beta areas. Now, beta areas are the areas that are pure black. So on this example on screen, the beta areas are the character's hair and that character's like beanie. And the go-to manga drawing program is Clip Studio Paint. So what I'm seeing a lot of mangakas do is they do like their very rough storyboards by hand on a sketch pad, and then they import it into Clip Studio Paint, and that's when they do their that's where they finalize the storyboard. That's where they ink their final pages. They do it digitally right now. So most mangakas, if not all mangakas, are drawing their mangas digitally right now because it's just that much more convenient, and also it's less expensive than drawing manga traditionally with like ink, you know. But if you do want to get into drawing manga with ink eventually, then a lot of old school mangakas still ink traditionally, and they use dip pens, right? So these pens on the left, these are dip pens. These pens on the right, these are fine liners. So don't use fine liners when you're making manga because they're a bit more difficult to use for beginners. So the standard is always dip pens, like the ones here on the left. Or you could also use futa brush pens. Futa brush pens, these are literally their name, they're brush pens, right? And they're typically used to fill in more broader brush strokes like the hair, or fill in beta areas, right? And if you want to clean up your mistakes as you're inking, you could use white ink, because this is a standard for all mangakas when they're drawing traditionally. They always use white ink because if they make a mistake, let's say when they're inking, they just go over it with white ink and it's gone, right? So now the final step is finishing. So this is where we add all the effects, the screen tones, and the shading. So this is just an example of a breakdown of a manga page from storyboard to final page with all the screen tones and shading, right? So screen tones, if you guys are not familiar, are basically made of tiny dots that create gray shading, right? So they come in different patterns and designs, and you can apply them digitally and traditionally. And it's very hard to find screen tones in Japan. I mean, using screen tones, adding screen tones traditionally gets really expensive in the long run. So that's why a lot of mangakas just add their screen tones and effects digitally at this point, right? So using screen tones adds more depth and helps create the mood of your scene. If you want, and we're not going to get into it here because we don't have a lot of time, but if you want to learn more about how to use screen tones and how to add effects and shading to your manga, you can always check out the other videos on our channel right here on screen, right? So you can check those out after this. We have plenty of videos about how to use manga effects as well, and how to add shading, right? And how to shade like a pro, basically. All right, so that is pretty much it. Those are the 7 main steps to creating your manga. And just to recap, right? The 7 steps are ideation and planning, writing, visual design, storyboarding, pencil sketches, inking, and finishing and shading, right? So we're giving you this roadmap because we don't want you to have to keep going around in a circle feeling lost and stuck. And we've already broken down this process for you in this live stream today. So just a reminder, now that you know the process, right? Do not expect to be able to successfully go through this process in just 1 week or even 1 month, right? Because you're no pro. You're most likely a beginner, as we've established at the start of this live stream, right? You're a beginner. Perhaps you've never made a manga before, or you're struggling to finish a manga, right? But now, just because you know what the whole process of making manga is like, that doesn't mean that you're able to successfully finish your first manga maybe in just a week or 1 month now that you know what to do, right? So the whole going through the process itself is very different. Today we've only just been talking about the process, but going through the process is very different. And this is what Yazawa sensei had to say: creating a proper one shot is 10 times more stressful than just drawing characters, especially when you start working with an editor, right? So if you want to become a professional mangaka, aim to create at least one finished one shot per year. So if you want to go pro and make manga seriously, then this is a very reasonable goal, right? For your very first project, give yourself a year. That's plenty of time to iron out your story first before you get into storyboarding. And that's plenty of time to figure out and iron out the details in your storyboarding before you get to finalizing your storyboard and then finalizing your manga pages, right? So 1 year is plenty of time. We've had students finish their first manga in less than in half that time. We've had students finish their manga in like 3 months, 4 months. It's up to you on how much time you're willing to put into learning the process and into making your manga, right? It's really up to you and your schedule and how dedicated you are, right? So creating your own manga takes time, takes effort, and takes commitment. All right. Now, I want to ask you guys, you have to deal with so much mental anguish, right? Asking yourself, am I good enough? Am I doing it right? Is it worth it? I'm sure even after going through this whole process, right? And even after like talking with some of you about your own mangas and about your own characters, right? I know some of you might still have questions and you might still be doubting whether you even can make manga, right? So if you guys are still asking yourself any of these questions, then I do want to ask you, I mean, would you rather learn how to make manga yourself, or would you rather have a proven path to success, right? Because we've worked with plenty of mangakas who've already finished their mangas, like Courtney, right? So our student Courtney, I'm not sure if you guys know about Courtney or if you're just tuning in. Courtney is one of the students in our program, and she joined us back in January 2024. And before joining us, she never had any manga making experience, never made manga before, only had drawing experience, right? But now she's already finished her one shot and joined manga contests like the Wordless Manga competition, right? So just look at the difference between her very first manga back in January when she just joined us to her first. This is her very first finished one shot back in December, and she's already working on her next one shot currently. And this is the very first one shot, but this is the very first one shot that she finished. And in just a year, she managed to do it. But that's because like Courtney also has a full-time job. So even balancing like her really busy schedule, she was able to do it within a year. Whereas we also have amazing students like Garrett, who never made a manga before, but now he's already finished storyboarding in just a matter of months. Right, so he joined us back in January. He didn't feel ready to make manga until like mid 2024, and then after countless practices, like countless short mangas, he'd already made like multiple short mangas before moving on to making like his full one shot. So this is where he's at right now, as of now. His Because he started from scratch, didn't know how to draw, didn't even know how to make manga before joining us. He had to start from scratch, so it took him longer. So he's already gotten to the point where okay, he can create really good, really compelling like short mangas now. And he's already on his way to making his first one shot. And then we have a student, Amser. Now, Amser had some drawing experience before joining us, but he wasn't happy with where his skill was, where his drawing skill was when he joined us. So after countless practice and starting from scratch, learning how to draw from scratch, learning how to draw from us from scratch, and finally like advancing into the OMD program, he's finally like finished his first one shot and submitted to the silent manga edition. And this is just a snippet of one of his like finished one shots. He's already finished, I believe, like two one shots at this point, but this is just a snippet of one of his finished one shots. So much progress from his earlier works back in like 2023 and 2024, right? So he's already improved his paneling, already improved his composition and his storyboarding, and it's been really nice to see how much he's improved. So now, if you want to be like our students, we invite you to apply to our online one-shot manga drawing program. So if you want to get guidance and mentorship, our students have had exclusive access to pro Japanese mangaka mentors like Naoya Zawa and Ren Asaya, who again have had over 50 years of experience in the Japanese manga industry. And they also have access to pro webtoon artist Steph Pastrano, who is a webtoon artist currently working on his own webtoon comic. And they also have access to pro manga editor Vivi, who is a pro manga editor with over 10 years of experience in the Japanese industry and worked with editorial teams for titles like Record of Ragnarok and Unsung Cinderella, and worked with publishers like Kadokawa and Koamix, right? So our students have exclusive access to these mentors. And are you excited to work with these mentors? Do you want to work with these mentors? Just type yes in chat. Do you want to work with our amazing mentors and get mentorship like our students have, and actually make progress like our students have with the help of our mentors, right? Because if yes, then we're not just taking in anyone, because the better the fit, the better the results. We want to work with aspiring mangakas who are ready to commit and challenge themselves to be the best that they can be. And if you do manage to join the program, you can get a marketing boost on your manga, because we will collect our students' best works and promote them on our platform so you can get more exposure. We actually have a manga anthology in the works. It's basically a manga magazine, a compilation of our students' mangas that we will be releasing early next year, right? Or maybe later this year. I don't know. It's definitely sometime December, January. I'll let you guys know. But it's in the works, and we're definitely releasing it soon. So if you want to check out our students' mangas, we'll be releasing them on Learn to Draw Manga really soon. And not aside from that, you could also pitch to publishers in Japan, because for the most committed and high performing students in our program, the journey doesn't end with just creating your first one shot. It could also take you all the way to Japan, because we're sending our best students to Japan on an all expense paid trip to attend Comitia, which is a top indie manga convention in Japan. So at Comitia, if you do get chosen to go to Comitia, you can pitch your manga directly to Japanese publishers and editors, right? So many exciting opportunities in the program. So if you want in, here's how the process works. This is for you if you're at least 18 years old and can comfortably write and speak in English. You're a beginner mangaka who feels lost and stuck and finally wants to feel confident putting your manga on paper and sharing your stories with the world. And you want the fastest path to gain the right skills to self-publish, join manga contests, or even pitch to publishers. And you want mentorship from pro Japanese mangakas and a pro manga editor, and you want to join a community of fellow mangakas who are in this journey with you together. All right, so if this sounds like you, then I invite you to book a free manga consultation call with us, because we will only be accepting serious applicants, you guys. So the link to apply is in the description, and we will, again, only serious applicants, you guys. So this is it. Moment of truth. The whole reason why learn to draw manga even exists is because we want to help you, and we want to help you finish a manga that you can be proud of, that you can potentially show to publishers, and you can potentially compete with, right? If you want to join manga contests, right? So if you don't want to stay stuck in the exact same situation you came in, then you're ready to make this commitment, you're ready to take action, you're ready to make progress, like significant progress on your manga, then this is it. This is your chance. Go ahead and apply to the program if you want one-on-one mentorship from our mentors, like direct feedback from our mentors, support from our coaches, because we also have coaches aside from our mentors, and also you want to be a part of a community of other artists who are hustling just like you and want to make their own mangas as well. All right, so all you have to do is click the link in the comments. I will be sending this link right now. Give me a second. So if you want to apply, you can book a call with us here, and the call is totally free. It's just a 30-minute call. If you want to apply to the program, we always require applicants to hop on a call with us, and it's 100% free, no hidden fees whatsoever. I mean, we're going to be taking the time out of our schedules to talk to you and get to know you more as a student, and see if you would be a good fit for the program, right? And if you would work well with the mentors in our program, right? So you can apply through the link in the description and in the comments. I just sent it through chat. All right. But we only do have limited slots for calls in the next couple of weeks. I think we are going to be closing calls for the holidays, that's for sure. So if you want to actually apply before the holiday season comes, I would definitely encourage you to book a call like as soon as possible, all right, before we close them for the holidays. All right, so I think that's about all the time we have for today, you guys. Thank you guys so much for coming to today's live stream. All right, so before I end, I just want to leave you guys with something that I always say at the end of every live stream. Where will you be tomorrow if you start today? Right? Our students joined our program months ago, and now they've already made significant improvements in their art and storytelling skills, and that could be you, right? You can do it too if you just take the leap and sign up to our one-shot manga drawing program today. All right? So what did we say at the beginning of this session? You can make manga, right? I mean, we made it a point to establish that, okay, we all believe that we can make manga, right? Now the question is, am I willing to make the commitment? Am I willing to take action and actually make manga, right? So if you're willing to take that leap and you want to make significant progress, actual progress that you can measure and actually make progress in like a couple of months up to a year, then come sign up to the program, because there you'll get access to our pro mangaka mentors and our pro manga editor, and they'll teach you exactly what you need to know to make a good manga. All right, so that's about it, you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. We're gonna be having another workshop next week. It's gonna be a 2-page workshop where we teach you guys how to make a 2-page manga. You'll be making a 2-page manga on the spot, and we'll be giving feedback to mangas on the spot during the workshop as well. So if you want to get feedback and get your manga reviewed by one of our coaches next week, then make sure to sign up for our 2-page workshop. All right, so you can find the sign up link for our 2-page workshop over at our community tab, actually. So let me just link it here real quick. If you guys want to join our 2-page workshop next week, it's only available to people who sign up to the workshop and get accepted into the Zoom session, because we typically have our workshops on Zoom, right? So if you want to join our 2-page workshop, you can sign up via the link here. So if you want to make actual mangas with us and get your mangas reviewed by our coaches, then you can sign up here. All right. Yeah, it's great practice, you guys. We give you a time limit to make your two-page manga. We teach you how to make your two-page manga, and we choose three lucky participants to review, right? So it's a great opportunity to just practice, right, and draw with us, and it's a great opportunity to potentially get your manga reviewed if you want feedback from one of our coaches, right? So yeah, you can sign up via the link that I just sent in the chat. And with that, that ends our live stream for today, you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. It's so nice to see so many familiar faces, and it was such an enthusiastic chat today, you guys. You guys have been awesome. You guys have been so you guys have been so enthusiastic. It's really nice to have these sessions with you guys and just get to chat and learn more about you guys as creators, right? So yeah, it's been great, you guys. I'll see you at our two-page workshop next week, all right? So see ya. Have a great day, you guys. Bye bye.